So it's 4:30 in the morning and I'm up. I've been up since 1 a.m. I think. I went to bed early and I wake up early. I have an insomnia problem. I can't sleep for more than 4 hours it seems. So if I go to bed 8 o'clock, 4 hours I'm up, wide awake, alert and animated. If anyone knows a remedy that can help me to sleep through the night, I am all ears. But I'm up and I've been working on my book. That's what I want to talk about, but just in case you're wondering what am I doing up at 1 a.m. in the morning, I know it's 4, right? I've been working on my book. It's 700 and odd pages. I've done the first draft, which is good, but now I'm going through and I'm fine tuning, ensuring that each chapter has a clear thesis and that the thesis is a recurring theme that runs throughout each chapter. That there are specific chapters that I've identified that I want to be like absolute masterpiece. Chapter 1, for example, where I explain the difference between money and currency, which is crucial, right, as it forms the foundation and the basis for everything else that runs throughout. And then I talk about the great economic illusion in chapter 5, which is another masterpiece that I want to make sure that I get it right. And then there's one chapter where I talk about manufacturing pandemics. I know, what does that have to do with central bank digital currencies, right? But I'm getting there. It's a slow progress because, of course, writing a book is never easy. I know people churn out books now and it's mostly garbage. But I want to write something that is of great value to readers. I have a first iteration that I've published on Amazon. Everything you need to know about central bank digital currency by Nicola Mills. It is available. I think it's like $16. It's $16 because Amazon has a fixed minimum price that you can price your books at based on the number of pages. And I think the printing cost is $10 US. So $10 goes to the printing company, and then Amazon has to get their share. So there's a minimum amount that you can set for what you sell your product for when Amazon is making it. So I'm getting like maybe $2 or something or less. I don't know. Anyways, go and support it. I'll put a copy of it when I'm editing this video. Anyways, that explains why I'm up. It doesn't explain why I'm making this video, right? So I just saw a video. Unfortunately, I was not able to stitch it, where this young man was talking about, quote unquote, waking up. And I know that this is a term that a lot of people, that you maybe hear passed around a lot these days, where people wake up, people woke, spirituality and all of that stuff. And it may seem weird and heady to a lot of people, but it it happens to all of us, albeit the degree of consciousness that we operate at varies. So it's kind of like when you were a child, when you were born, you were not consciously aware. You don't remember when you were 3 months old, right? You don't remember when you were a year old. Most people don't even remember when they were 5, right? Their conscious awareness did not come into being, even though there was a soul inhibiting the body. Well, I don't know if there was a soul inhibiting the body, but there was a vessel, right? You can't remember your life at that point. And then the things that you believed when you were 10 years old, as you become older and your experience and your knowledge and your consciousness expands, those beliefs adjust according to reality and your understanding of it. Awakening is like a more expanded version of that, where you have awakened to the real. You now become the adult in the room of people playing adults, as it were. I'll try to explain it, but remember, we can only explain things insofar as our range of understanding allows us to. And that is where a lot of people fall short, because their consciousness has expanded, but they do not have the wisdom that goes with that expansion of consciousness. Because people believe that awakening is an acquisition of wisdom. It is not. It is an acquisition of data. Having the data does not mean you have the ability or the capacity to translate that data into information and then communicate that understanding to others. What happens more often than not is that people become victims of their own hubris. They think that, oh, well, I'm now awake and I'm so much smarter than everybody else. And so they begin to act superior, not being humble enough to understand that I am still limited in my understanding of the existential stuff that happens in this version of reality that I am currently experiencing. And so I must be humble enough to know that I don't know, and I am still on a path of knowledge. So I'll give you an example of what happened from my personal experience. I think it was 2017. I was at work. It was about 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. I worked night shift. I was a night auditor working at Holiday Inn. I worked there for almost 12 years, from 2010 until 2021. And this time I was working alone because it was, I think the co-auditor that I had left, and they couldn't find it because nobody wants to work the graveyard shift, right? But because I'm an insomnia, it worked out for me. And there's this question, I'm there, I'm minding my business, and there's this question that just pops in my mind. In the beginning, God, like literally, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Who the hell was there to hear when God said, "Let there be light"? Like, who was there? Like, this was the genesis of my quote unquote awakening. Who was there to hear when God said that? That was the question. And then I begin to question other things. And I'm like, okay, they said the Bible was written by inspired men of God, but what does that mean? It simply means that those men would have to hear from God. And then we are relying on their interpretation of what they thought they heard from God. And we are holding them to, like, well, they did hear from God and what they're saying is true. So there is still room for mistakes because we're all human beings and we're all fallible. And even if God speaks to me, I will not have to, because you didn't hear it, I hear it. You're not hearing God speak to me. So I will not have to communicate to you what I think I hear God said. And it is in that, me being an intermediary, that is where the problem lies. Because if I have nefarious actions, or if I think that, well, I'm not going to say it the way that God said it, or I don't think that's what God meant, you understand? Because people do that. Sometimes you give someone a message and they don't carry straight. And we have all played that game of Chinese telephone. So that was the genesis of my awakening. And then suddenly, most of the stuff that I did just didn't make any sense. I started questioning hell, I started questioning this, and I started questioning that, and I started questioning my idea of who God is. Well, it's not really who, but it's what. And like, the God that you're describing, the God that I was taught to believe in or whatever, is incompatible with who God is supposed to be. So if there was a fundamental incompatibility with how people portray God and what God is supposed to be. And I'm like, these people are talking about the devil, they're not talking about God, right? And so from then, the everyday realities begin to come into focus as well, because our points of attention vary based on our current circumstances. So for instance, if I'm hungry, I don't have time to see that, well, the dishes need to be, I just want to get food, right? And because we live in a society that manufactures scarcity, it is difficult for people to become awake. Of course, the awakening is unintentional. I guess it's just, I don't know why it happens. It's just that it happens. And so you become sort of deprogrammed. But now you are displaced. You're like a fish out of water, in a manner of speaking. You find yourself in a strange land. And a lot of people become nihilistic or suicidal because when you find yourself in a strange land amongst a people that you no longer recognize, not even your own family. If you have kids, not even you can't relate to anyone because they're all plugged into the system. If you watched the movie The Matrix, and when Neo took the red pill and he went back in, it's like all these people are being controlled. And so once you know, you can't unknow. And it becomes a very lonely place to be. Forget having a relationship. If you were single, like I am, it's difficult for you to connect with anybody because the kind of superficiality and surface level stuff that people are coming with it's just annoying. Like, it's annoying as hell. Even like, people can't have people don't even know how to have conversations, don't even know how to start a conversation. A lot of people are DMing me, "Hi, sup?" Like, what? I'm not going to respond to you. If you're messaging me, then you need to state why you're messaging me. I'm not going to respond to someone who says hi. That's not a conversation starter. "Hey, how are you doing?" And just like how if you call a business place, you would, state the nature and the purpose of your call. It's the same if you're messaging someone, you would state the nature of why you're messaging them. So just even basic conversations, even though sometimes like the stuff that I want to talk about, there's no one to talk about it because then people are going to look at you as if you're crazy. Just like how during COVID when I was out there trumpeting like, what, like this is crazy, this is a psyop, this is a manufactured, engineered crisis. They made the virus, they released it, and they're and people are looking at me like you're crazy, and you're an anti-vaccine. I don't talk to, and you're not a scientist. I'm not going to listen to you. Like, what do you know about making vaccines? What do you know about? What you're not a doctor? Yada yada yada. And 5 years later, it turns out, oh wow, you were right. And those persons, instead of saying, wait a minute, we want some accountability from the government, because you did this. COVID was your doing. Everybody's moved. It's back to business. It's business as usual. Everything is back to normal. And of course, we're going now for round 2 because they're coming with the climate lockdowns and stuff. So you're in this world, but you don't belong here anymore. And a lot of people find it very difficult to exist in this space because they feel out of place. Like, I don't want to be here. And it's largely because of, like I said, sometimes it's the hubris, and sometimes it's like you have to, I don't know, I have a unique ability to analyze things and to understand my place in relation to those things. And so when I come, the expansion of my consciousness, albeit, even though it isolates me from everyone else, I am still able, because there are things that you can do to further expand your consciousness. And I have deliberately decided not to do that because then, it's like, there would be no point in being here. You cannot survive. If you look at Buddha, if you look at the great sages of our time, they went into isolation because you cannot exist among people when you have an expanded consciousness. It's like you become a small god among men. You can't relate to them. They don't understand you. You don't understand the minutia of everyday life. No, even right now, I am not working, and I have a little savings that I'm using, and I'm like, I have no interest in going through the interview process again. I am not. I don't. It's not that I don't want to work. It's just I know what it is about, right? And just the foolishness. I don't want to have to deal with it again. I just do not want to. I dealt with it for 21 fucking years of my life. I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with it again because these fucking people are NPCs. And the interviewers are NPCs, and the people are employing your NPCs, and the people who you're working with are fucking NPCs. And when there are systemic issues, and you're like, okay, these are problems that needs to be addressed. We are the only ones who have the power to see the change that we want. People are like, I can't afford to lose my job. I'm not going to rock the boat. And so it's because that's why I left my last job, because there was systemic rot. And I just could not. Like, people don't understand. It reaches to a point where you physically cannot continue. You have to leave. And so I had to leave. Of course, I spoke to them before, and I'm like, hey, this is the situation, and I need you to address it. And of course, nobody did anything. So I'm like, well, fuck you, and I left. I didn't say that, but I'm like, here's my resignation, and I am leaving. Because to me, if you know better, you have to do better, right? And your consciousness expanding puts you in a very difficult position because you see how evil the system is. The version of reality that we're in right now is pure evil. And you wonder why evil persists when everybody is religious. There are more religious people on the planet, I think, than non-religious people. So why do we have the world in the state that it is? Because religious people are not serving God. They are not. I don't know what they're serving, but it is not God. And the way the world is now, I'm not sure how we got here. Because if we go down that road, people are going to think I'm crazy. You're going to think I've lost it. I've certainly lost my marbles and I belong in an institution, right? How we got where we are, or we got here, where we are now in 2025, it's a very evil system, perpetuated by the church. The church, the people who started the Christendom religion, the Vatican, these are evil people. The foundations of religion was built on a pile of bones. And this is a historical fact. Everyone at least have heard about the religious crusades. And these crusades went on for decades. It wasn't like just a year. There were religious people going around murdering people who weren't converting to their religion. That's literally what was happening. They were calling them pagans, and they went around and murdered. That is how Christianity became the dominant religion, because they would kill you if you did not accept their God. That's what they did. People are not worshiping God. I know if you're a Christian, what you're worshiping is not God. I don't know what it is. That's not for me to tell you, it's for you to find out. But it's not God. And if you believe that, then you ask the question, if we are all so religious, because you go to church and you see everybody on Sunday, why is everything so bad? Everybody at God church, but still there's so much evil in the world. So it can't be God in our worship. It can't be. And who is God, or what is God, and where is God? Is it outside of you, or is it inside of you? God is inside of you. The very Bible that they give you, albeit, anyway, let's not get into that, tells you where God is. Here. And if you're not looking internally, then you're on the wrong path. It is not my job to set you on the right path, because like I said, awakening is a frightening experience and an isolating one. But I don't know, I guess I was just rambling. Anyways, that's what I gotta say.